I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Alvarez.
Here.
Councilman Cullen.
Here.
Councilwoman Eckhart is absent. Councilman Hudak.
Here.
Supervisor Hay.
Here. Ms. Eckhart is stuck on the tarmac in
St. Martin.
St. Martin. She'll be back, but not until after this meeting. Okay. Electronic devices on vibrate or off, exits in the front and the rear. I make a motion to come out of the executive session. No actions were taken.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, to go into work session, discussion, chapter 138, zoning, D, noise, identify Sunday. I move for discussion.
Second.
Discussion. Okay. The zoning ordinance currently reads, noise. It shall be unlawful for any person to make, continue, or cause to be made or continued any loud, unnecessary, or any noise which annoys, disturbs, injures, or endangers the comfort, response, health, peace, or safety of others. The noise necessarily involved with the construction or demolition of buildings and other structures shall be prohibited except between the hours of 7 a.m. and 8 p.m. weekly and 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. on Saturdays. There's no mention of Sunday, and that's what the debate has become, what happens on Sundays. Discussion.
What I think is the statute or this piece of the code would need to be reconfigured so it would say, once again, it's really about the noise necessarily involved with the construction or demolition of buildings and other structures. It says that that noise shall be prohibited except between certain hours. I think what we would need to do is in the first instance say that it would be prohibited except between, which means that construction noise is allowed between the hours of 7 o'clock a.m. and 8 o'clock p.m. weekly. We would change that to say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and 9 a.m. and 5 o'clock p.m. on Saturdays. So what we really should do is eliminate, in my opinion, it's sort of like a double negative. So instead of saying it in the negative sense, say it, the noise necessarily involved with the construction or demolition, etc., shall only be permitted during the hours of 7 a.m. and 8 o'clock on Monday through Friday, and then on Saturday, and then prohibited on Sunday. And once again, this only has to do with noise necessarily involved with the construction or demolition of buildings and other structures. The first sentence refers to any loud, unnecessary, or any noise which annoys, disturbs, injures, or endangers the comfort, repose, health, peace, or safety of others. So that kind of noise is always prohibited. It's just the noise necessarily involved with construction or demolition. What we're carving out is an exception when that noise, in quotes, can occur. And so I would just, I think we just have to phrase it in a positive sense.
So what happens on
negative noise, we say in a positive sense.
So what happens on Sundays?
We say that it doesn't happen on Sundays. My opinion would be what you have here is the construction or demolition of buildings, and it's the noise necessarily involved with the construction or demolition of buildings and other structures.
You may want to add excavation of land as well, because
Right,
that is...
right. I think at this point, you know, if someone is constructing a shed, let's say, I mean, if you work 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and maybe on Saturday, Sunday may be the only alternative you have to do certain things. I think that this, you know, if you're going to put up a shed, I don't necessarily think putting up a shed or taking down a shed is what we're talking about, you know, that type of terrible noise. However, if the code remains this way, I think if you're constructing a shed, it could be considered the construction of a structure. So it may be prohibited on Sunday, but you know, I know that people are busy. However, at this point, there's a lot of people who would prefer to relax on Sunday and not hear a lot of construction or demolition.
Well, that's where the problem lies. Many people work many hours to afford the high taxes that we have here in Putnam County, even though some people think they're low. And that's the only time they may have an opportunity to work. I mean, if you're building a shed, you go to the local, you know, Home Depot, or you go somewhere and put together something. you're gonna annoy your neighbor because you're gonna be hitting with a hammer, and I don't think hammering is a very loud noise, but it's gonna be annoying to somebody or disturb someone. So to tell people they can't do something on a Sunday, I don't like that.
I kind of agree with Liz. I think, you know, people have the right to enjoy their property on a Sunday, sit in the backyard, especially in the summer, and to hear your neighbor, you know, using a backhoe or something. I mean, actually, even cutting the grass on a Sunday and using a leaf blower, if people start early in the morning, is kind of unfair, I think. But I definitely think, I'm not supportive of construction noise on Sunday unless it's an emergency situation. That's the only
If I
reason
can't do it
would-
Monday through Saturday, is Sunday emergency?
No, emergency as if something like just broke or something like that, but, no, I don't think that's the case, in my opinion, just because you want to do it on a Sunday. I don't think it's fair to your neighbors. You know, but if somebody has a situation and they speak to the neighbor, and if nobody calls and complains about it, then, you know, nobody's gonna know any better, you know, but
Yeah.
personally, I think Sunday, it's, the greater good is for everyone to enjoy some little peace on a Sunday.
I mean, I think also you could have somebody who doesn't work 6 days a week, which would include the Saturday, that would be in a position of simply picking Sunday as the date that it would happen. You know, I know there's a lot of people work 6 days a week, et cetera, but I just think that Sunday is the day when we really should truly be at rest.
I
Or at least
concur.
let anyone else be at rest.
Edwin, any comment on this?
I always thought that you couldn't do it on a Sunday, quite honestly, so I thought we were just really gonna, for the record, you know, clarify that it's not permitted, a permitted use on Sundays. So, I'm
Well, I
in
know some-
favor of not having any construction.
Well, we have a lot of Hatfield and McCoy neighbors,
On
so it's gonna
Sundays.
be,
I mean, and 7 AM till 8 o'clock PM on Monday through Friday is, you know, that's a fairly wide window that it's permitted. And once again, that's construction or demolition of buildings and other structures. You know, so if.
And I think most people wouldn't be doing this type of stuff on their own. They'd have a contractor do it. So the
rich
contract,
guys like you could do that, yes.
not to make people take down their own house or whatever, you know.
Well,
I don't know.
again, people building a deck on the back of the house, I mean, you're gonna cut Sunday sales. Okay.
I kind of agree with Edwin. I mean, you know, I was a police officer in a town in Westchester. You couldn't do stuff on Sundays, you know. I think it's not unique to Southeast, and I never knew that, I thought that you couldn't do it. I didn't realize there was little clips in the wording of the ordinance.
Okay, Will, I'll draft up the wording, or do you wanna draft it?
I'll take a shot at it and
Okay.
pass it by you.
You'll do it much better, no,
I'm not so sure.
because I don't have Sundays in there, so maybe you better write it. Okay, we'll put that on the agenda next month, or the next meeting for consideration. Okay, next item on the agenda is, now we go to the regular meeting. Make a motion to go into regular meeting portion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next is a resolution for the Grace Assembly of God for a special permit. Now therefore it be resolved. Found and determined that the Town Board of the Town of Southeast hereby makes the following findings of fact in connection with the instant application. 1, the proposed use is in such location and is such in character that it will be in harmony with the appropriate and orderly development of the surrounding district. It will not be detrimental to the immediate site or adjacent properties, provided appropriate conditions, restrictions are made a part of the grant of a special permit. 2, the location and size of the proposed use, the nature and intensity of the operations involved in or conducted in connection herewith, its site layout, and its relation to access streets will be such that both pedestrian and vehicular traffic to and from the use and the assembly of persons in connection therewith will not be hazardous, provided appropriate conditions and restrictions are made a part of the grant of a special permit. 3, the exterior appearance will not hinder or discourage the development and use of adjacent land and buildings, provided all reviews and approvals of the Southeast Architectural Review Board are incorporated in any final approval of the project. 4, the proposed use will not require such additional public facilities or services or create fiscal burdens upon the town greater than those which characterize uses permitted as of right. And be further found and determined, 1, the ZBA granted application a variance for zoning section, code section 138-55.1A, which requires that the building or structure be set back from front, side, and rear property lines 300 feet. 2, the ZBA granted the applicant a variance for zoning code section 138-55.1B, which requires parking facilities to be set back a minimum of 200 feet from the adjoining residential properties. 3, as currently proposed, an environmental conservation buffer of 50 feet has been provided as required by section 138-55.1C of the zoning code. 4, as proposed, the outdoor public address system will not carry beyond the limits of the site at greater decibels than would be inherent in the ordinary residential use of the property as required by section 138-55.1D of the zoning code. As proposed, there is no request to reduce the parking requirements as allowed by section 138-55.1E of the zoning code. 6, as proposed, site lighting will not project into surrounding residential properties as required by section 138-55.1F of the zoning code. 7, as proposed, there is no steeple, minaret, or other structure that will exceed the normal height or structures permitted within residential zones as regulated by section 138-55.1G of the zoning code. 8, as proposed, no playground equipment will be located within 200 feet minimum setback from residential structures within the residential district as required by 138-55.1H of the zoning code. And be further resolved that based upon the foregoing findings, the town board of the town of Southeast hereby grants a special use permit to Grace Assembly of God to construct a house of worship and place the assembly to be located on the subject premises in accordance with the statement of use and plan submitted in connection with this application, and be further resolved that the planning board is hereby directed to continue necessary site plan review, and that any final determination with regard to such site plan shall incorporate all provisions of this grant of special permit. And be further resolved that the town clerk is hereby authorized and directed to provide a certified copy of this resolution to the secretary of the planning board and to the representatives applicant forthwith. So moved for discussion.
Second.
Discussion. Would you like to just give a quick presentation to the board?
I can, yes.
We've got it all here, so just, you're gonna just point out the boundaries and locations so we know.
Sure. All the proposed work is on the east side of the property. We have a proposed pavilion, a parking, a utility shed, and the DOT entrance that's located just right here. Basically, that's accurate.
Okay, we've seen
I
it
have
before?
one question. Why is it that the DOT wouldn't want the entrance to the facility to be directly opposite North Brewster Road?
The DOT had an issue with moving the entrance across from North Brewster Road because it would essentially create confusion as far as who has right-of-way. I may or may not agree with that, but a driveway coming up to a road across from you, you'd think that the road has the right-of-way, but they don't want to confuse anyone and create additional traffic issues.
Recently, there's been a major project before this town, which is known as Crossroads 312. And one of the mitigation measures that has been proposed is the inclusion of a stoplight at that intersection. If the DOT had that information, do you think they would modify their concern?
I believe that they would. They've actually given us ideas that if a traffic light was in place there, they'd want to have the entrance moved. And if and when a light is installed, then we would revisit where the entrance is located.
Would you be adverse to having a condition in your final site plan approval that would require the movement of that access way in the event that light was installed?
Let me
I,
talk to that.
yeah.
I would just like to say that what's the time framework that they're looking at? The thing
It's
is,
anybody's guess, to be honest
Right.
with you, Reverend. But the finding statement that was adopted pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act has that as a condition. If that project is ever built, that light will be installed.
Right.
And, you know, it could be it could be a year from now, it could be 2 years from now. I have no way of knowing that. But I think that from a safety and traffic flow perspective, I personally believe that having something in your approval that would require the moving of that driveway or your access to your house of worship would, you know, to be put at that intersection with a light would be far safer than what it is if it were to be left there with the light there.
the only thing I've seen where there was an Assembly of God church down in near Spring Valley, where the street comes down and it can create confusion. But I'll say this, that I'm not opposed at all to doing whatever we need to do with the town to maintain safety and that kind of thing. I wouldn't want to impose the restriction that would hinder us from doing that, and just hinder us when in the course of action it could take a year, it could take years.
I'm not suggesting that it would stop you from building
Yeah.
as you plan now, because that's the way that the DOT has suggested to be built.
Right.
But in the event that light is installed, I think even the DOT has indicated that would be an appropriate place for your driveway to come out if the light were there. So if the light is there at some later date, I think that if you were going to be willingly able to move it to another location, that could be incorporated into, you know, a finding or the final resolution of approval.
It'll make it a lot safer. I mean,
Oh,
right
yeah, and
now,
we don't disagree with that. It
the
just
way it
comes
is
down
right
to
now,
cost of,
it's fine,
Moving
okay? But it's not gonna be fine, because when you're gonna try to come out of there, it's a pretty hairy intersection as it is. But once a light goes in, it'd be to your benefit to have that exchange to come in and out. It'll be a lot safer for all the people that will be using that property.
I think we just want to show our concern for, I guess, requiring us to move the entrance. We do agree that it would be safer, but then, you know, it's at our cost to put that entrance, to pick it up and move it, essentially. You know, that's our concern.
Is there, are you responsible for the entering and entrance? Is there a grate there currently now, or you have to put in the drainage there as well?
There's an existing drain that we have to replace. So then we would most likely have to do the same thing in
Do
the
you know
new
what the
entrance.
distance between your current one and where it would be if it were, where we're proposing?
Roughly 65 to 70 feet.
Okay. I mean, I know what the plastic pipe costs to, you know, allow that drainage to continue. It's
Right, then
probably
you're,
about
you know, you're ripping up
$120,
item 4
$150
and then
a foot.
reinstalling it.
This was a larger thing that was put in there, a pretty large steel structure that goes underneath the driveway to go through there.
Culvert.
Again, when we look at where we're meeting now in the school there, their driveway is really not far from the light. And on a Sunday, which is primarily when we're moving in and out, it may not be a problem. If it turns out we're growing and the town is growing and we need to, and it's in the best interest of everybody to move it, I have no problem with us readdressing that. I just didn't want to have something that puts another snail move into, you know,
No, it wouldn't be now, but it'd be for the future. And I'm gonna tell you right now, I live just up the road from there, and I even mentioned, it's one of the reasons they claim they put in the light there, because I wasn't able to get out, but I don't go that way anymore, so it doesn't matter.
Okay.
But I do go that way often.
Yes.
That road is really busy.
But
Now, on Sundays,
312?
yes. Well, Sundays, believe me, go up there and
Well,
see.
North Brewster Road, especially on school days with school buses,
these-
and it's very
Oh,
tough.
it's a headache.
It's mostly Sunday, but, you know, it will be an expense to you, yes, in the future. But I'm gonna tell you right now, when you're coming in and out of there, even now when you build it, you're gonna have, it's not gonna be easy getting in and out of there. It's gonna be difficult. Now, to make a right would be much easier, but anyone that's gonna be making a left is gonna have a much harder time coming out of that property. If you have the light, you go left, right, straight ahead.
Is this something that the applicant can address in the planning board?
Yes, that's what we're
Yeah,
trying
I
to
mean, what I was gonna suggest is that there would be some note in the final approval that would say that in the event the DOT determines it's a better location at some point in time to have it right at the intersection, that they'd be willing to move it.
Yeah. I do kind of agree with, I think, the Reverend. I think it's a little unfair for
Yeah.
them to, 3 years from now, if Crossroads ever gets built, that they have to spend money now because of that project to fix the driveway or to change the entrance. That's,
Yeah, I think you're going to go
Yeah.
to the planning board, and this is something that I'm certain will be brought up at the planning board. Will sits at the planning board, as you know, so.
I mean, that has nothing to do with
Let's
tonight.
see if there can be some thoughts, compromises, perhaps some colloquy with the Crossroads people. Let's see, maybe something can occur. But, because I agree too, to require you as part of this, if it was simply just moving and opening, 60 feet away, but it sounds like it's a lot more complicated than that. I too think that it's better to have a light where, regardless if it's only Sunday or whatever, I think it would be better than having a stop sign and people going here. Something tells me that when the DOT weighs in on the Crossroads application and we look into the Crossroads site plan, that might be something that we can address too with both applicants.
That was gonna be a suggestion as well.
Pardon me?
That was gonna be one of my suggestions,
Right.
so that we can revisit that when the light,
Well, we're
if and when
sitting-
it does
the-
become.
The town board is going to be reviewing the site plan for the Crossroads. So clearly, it's gonna be something that we'll be discussing. And one of the promises that the Crossroads applicant gave was that 312 was going to be much improved because that was one of the biggest concerns of everybody. So that would be something that we'd have to speak about. And
Okay.
you and the Crossroads applicant probably will have some discussion on that, which would be nice.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's fine.
Yes.
Any other comment? All in favor?
Hi.
Aye. Good luck.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, let me see what's next. Number 2, resolution award operation and maintenance Peach Lake wastewater treatment plant. Resolved that the North Salem shall agree the town board of the town of Southeast accepts the proposal of VRI Environmental Services, Inc., dated January 29, 2015, to provide O&M, operation and maintenance services for Peach Lake wastewater treatment facility, and authorizes the supervisor to execute a joint contract with VRI for such services commencing on April 1, 2015, for a period of 3 years. And be further resolved that this resolution shall take effect immediately. So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Number 3, resolution Springhouse Estates settlement. I'm going to ask to waive the rules this evening because this item was not on a work session. And normally, in a regular meeting, we don't allow public comment, but seeing that there was no opportunity for the public to comment on this, I'm going to ask that we waive the rules this evening and allow, I'm going to lay out, how we got to where we are this evening, and then allow anyone from the public to speak 2 minutes to the subject matter, and they cannot, he takes my 2 minutes, she takes my 2 minutes, limit discussion to 2 minutes per person. That's your
Second a
motion.
motion to waive the rules?
On the motion,
With those contingencies?
Yes.
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that allows the public comment. 2 minutes. Okay. I'm gonna read. Now therefore be resolved that the supervisor be and hereby is authorized to enter in a stipulation of agreement or settlement with the Chazen Company settling the delay damages claim relating to the construction of the Springhouse Water District stemming from the improper specification of a pump unit in the amount of $21,150, and be further resolved that the supervisor be and hereby is authorized to exchange any and all documents necessary in furtherance of this settlement. Move for discussion.
Second.
Okay, here's the discussion. As you know, Springhouse has been on the agenda for some time. After many, many years, they now have water. There was a problem with a pump that had been delivered, and because of that delay, they suffered some consequential damages. We estimated here in the town, from soup to nuts, from basically the completion date, substantial completion date, which was around January 1, 2013, no, 14. It went to approximately March 5th, 2014. We totaled up all the water bills, we have electricity, pumps, the law firm of Stevens reviewing the project. Bottom line, we came up with a total of $69,000. With that, the town attorney and I went through the building as if we were negotiating some kind of a settlement. Could we possibly get the full $69,000 from Chazen? And the answer to that ended up being no, because the Department of Health required certain things which, I wouldn't say caused delay, but wasn't a reason for a delay, and could not go directly back to Jason in our mind. So therefore, we came up with approximately $27,000 and change as a number that we could possibly go to Chazen to settle. And this is what would happen if it went to a judge. We can go today and hire an attorney. Our representative gets between $125 to $150. I've checked rates, and it's anywhere from $200 to probably $275 an hour. So with that, we reviewed the numbers, and we came up with a number of approximately $27,293.89. That's related to the purchase of water, legal fees, redundant electrical charges, and we made the proposal to Chazen. Chazen countered. I think it was quite insulting. They came back with $13,000. The negotiations continued, and that's how we got to the number 21-1. Suing, believe me, it's not good. I'll tell you a couple of stories. One, I knew a person that had something that they were trying for years to settle, okay? They hired an attorney. Bottom line, they went out, they spent all kinds of money. When I took office, the person told me they had spent already over $125,000 on something. And I said, that is a lot of money. And it was just recently settled. Now, that was 3 years ago. So during this past 3 years, I don't know what the number is, because we're the other side of the litigant. And the bottom line is, it was 100 to 125. When I first took office, it was 3 years, 2 months ago, and it was just recently settled for $75,000. So the person had already spent 120 to 125 early on. They lost a lot of money. Now, as you know, Springhouse is in litigation currently over the purchase of the land. It's still in litigation to this minute. It's been well over 4 years. You have a little over $21,000 invested in that lawsuit. Now, the original purchase of the property was $84,000. You now have $21,400 in legal fees. The last time we checked, that was 2011. So there has been a lot of activity, but that activity is coming up. I think in May, it's going back to court. The former landowner is, of course, coming up with his own appraisal value. It's going to go in front of a judge. He's going to look at the 84 original price, whatever the new one is, and they might try to reach some kind of agreement. But the bottom line is 84 plus 21 is like $105,000 that is actually now paid for the land. And of course, the other person's paid a lot of money as well. We're maybe not concerned about the other person. We're concerned about ourselves. Oh, sorry. It was $23,568.39. That's exactly the amount of money thus far that's involved with that particular lawsuit. So it's not good. Now, I'm hearing there's a lot being said about the risers. Now, the Department of Health is the person we've been dealing with up there, I guess, Springhouse in particular, I wasn't here at the time, was like 20 years, okay? They're the ones that set the rules by which we have to do whatever happens. I mean, they're the ones. They're the ones who put in the wells originally. They've looked at this and they've made comments. Now, I responded to someone about the risers and that it met the 10 state standard. I understand there's words out there that it doesn't meet the 10 state standards. And I'm not going to go out and hire a lawyer to find out who's right or who's wrong, but I will read you facts. When the Department of Health went up there to do their inspection, they went up there and they said, and this is a document dated March 11, 2014, and this is the Department of Health. The existing covers do not appear to meet requirement of being watertight. Now that's the risers, okay? It says the existing covers do not appear. It does not say does not meet, it says does not appear. So no one did the testing from the DOH to see if it leaked or not, if it was watertight. Now, what is considered watertight? The 10 state standard states the following. Each manhole shall be elevated at least 24 inches above the top of the tank or cover and sod, whichever is higher. If anyone want to go out and measure the tank, it's 24 inches. Each manhole shall be fitted with a solid watertight cover which overlaps a frame opening and extends down the frame at least 2 inches. Go measure that cap, it meets that standard. The frame shall be at least 4 inches high, meets that standard. Each cover shall be hinged on one side, met the standard, and shall have a locking device. It didn't have one the day of the inspection, but all they needed was a lock to complete that. But the Department of Health did not feel it was watertight. However, according to specifications of the 10 state standard, they said they did. I'm not going to go out and try to hire a lawyer to go up there and say, is it or isn't? The Department of Health told us, told Springhouse, here's what we want to make that standard. They wanted something more than what was provided. Now, while we were there, they also told us other things. We had the dialer that was there. We had 4, I don't know what they want to call them, 4 circuits. Well, they required more circuits, okay? So we had to provide it. There were certain signs that were missing. They wanted to provide it. Now, even though they were or were not in the specs, when they got there, they looked and reviewed it, and they asked for other things to be done, and that's basically exactly what they did. So the 21,150 is what's on the table. And we can sue. You have no idea where it's going to be. You already got $23,000 in one suit, and what's it going to be? And how much would you get? If you ask for 69, I'm going to tell you right now, the way we reviewed it is exactly the way a court of law. And actually, by the way, if you hire an attorney and you spend a year, 2 years, you're 4 years into the other one, if you hire an attorney to go out there and do it, guess what? You know what the first thing the judge is going to say after 4 years or 2 years, whatever you pay an attorney to get to the judge, and I don't want to be the judge, she can be the judge, okay? She's sitting here. Guess what he's going to say? Go back and settle. That's what they're going to tell you. After you spend all the money to do something, they're going to tell you, go back and settle. We've already done that, okay? So we're going to gain nothing by it, and then they're going to come. Now, they might look and say, geez, they might break it down. You might get even less, and I don't know what it's going to cost. If it costs you $10,000, does it cost you $20,000? Does it cost you $30,000? I don't know what the number is going to be. So the top number, the maximum, could be maybe $69,900. Could it be more? We have to make a decision. This town board has to make a decision. And we've heard from many people, and it's not unanimous. Some people want to sue, but the majority seems not to want to sue. So we have to make the decision. No matter what Springhouse says, we have to make that decision. And I'm going to tell you right now, if we decide to go through the resolution and say you sued and it's not good, I don't see anyone winning anything. So what I'm going to do now is ask any other board members. This is basically the entire case, okay? And we have to make a decision. And I sent in an email my thought on this. I've worked on this for many, many hours, and I know I read it all the time. It's not his money. No, it's not my money. I'm telling you, I know it's not my money. But I have to work on your behalf. And I don't think the number is good. I would like better, but we tried that. We went in for the number we thought we could get. And I was insulted to see the $13,000. The 21.5, we did the best we could. That's what's on the table. If we don't take the 21.5, that's what we're doing this evening. If we don't take the 21.5, then it's litigated. And I'm telling you right now, I don't see anyone winning. No one wins. Anyone? Comment? Okay.
I mean, I'll just say that, I just wanted to know, is it 21,500?
21,150.
150?
21,150.
Okay. I've seen litigation, litigation costs where just going up to the point where you can see a judge, in quotes, is very costly. Afterwards, there are what's called, you go through discovery and disclosure, and that's very costly. Depositions, which are very costly. You are paying an attorney to sit there you're paying time. Attorneys are paid for their time. Thereafter, there are pretrial motions, memoranda, et cetera, which could result in more monies being charged by an attorney. Then, if you cannot settle, there's settlement conferences. If you can't settle, then there's trial preparation. And ultimately, even right before trial, a judge will continue to cajole you into settling, so that's another conference. And then once you go through the trial process, is the trial process itself. And whichever side is not victorious has the ability to appeal. If there's an appeal, then your attorney has to go and appeal that, or has to counter the appeal. Either you'll be appealing or you'll counter an appeal. So at that point in time, I think really what you have to do is it's a cost-effective analysis. Do we accept the money that's on the table, knowing that after the town reviewed the differences in the amounts, what we're talking about is the town attributing 27,000 roughly plus or minus. The difference right now between the 27,000 plus and minus and the 21,150, although once again, and I agree with Tony, it's us saying that after all, this is not our money, it's yours. The difference between that would easily, in my opinion, be eaten up by attorney's fees, costs and expenses, there's transcript fees, in no time. So the only thing would be, if litigation continues in this context, that everyone would have to realize that even if you stop it and settle it in the middle, that I believe that you'd be spending more money. I think what I'm seeing here is that it's got to be a cost-effective analysis. Which way would you like to go? That's it.
Okay, anyone else here?
I-
Okay.
I'd like to hear what they have to say.
No, I just agree with, Liz, and, I think it's not, what we'd like, but considering how the court system works, I think it's fair, and it's probably the best we'll probably do without spending a lot of money, and then it's no guarantees, so I'll be voting to support the settlement.
Okay, public comment. Yes, sir.
I'm Bob Lee, 5 Acorn Road. Tony, I was the one that had asked you about the risers. For the amounts that we're talking about, I'm fine with us settling with Chazen. I'm just a little disappointed because I think there was an error there with the watertight hatches. I know you sent me a note that said that it met the standards, but it sounded like that there might have been an option, if it had been ordered originally, to seal those hatches so that they would have met the guidelines. Whether it is or it isn't, we're talking like probably whatever the difference would have been for ordering that versus 11,000. I'm just disappointed that that wasn't like part of the negotiations to get that amount. But for the amounts we're talking about, we're kind of like you said, I think it's okay for us to just settle with the matter.
Well, to go back to that, again, when they went out there, they said the existing covers do not appear to meet the requirements of being watertight.
Right, yeah, I
The
saw that, it
manufacturer-
appear, right, so,
The manufacturer says they are. So it's the Department of Health who's the one that goes out there and inspects, and they didn't feel it met the standard, although it meets the standard by section 7.082 of the 10 state standard.
right. So
Could it have been
maybe
better?
someone in here, Chazen or someone else, should
Yes.
have argued the point more strenuously. It's a
They
little
should have.
disappointing that we spent that money, like, you know, when
And
we
part of the
possibly
reason,
might not have.
and unfortunately, part of the reason for this to happen was we had bigger tanks originally, and I don't know if the covers on those would have been different, but they may have been.
Right.
That's
And-
the difference.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the efforts that you made to negotiate it. I think settling is the right thing, but, you know, other people might not. Thanks.
Thank you.
Andy Shear, Drovers Lane. First of all, the submission that Harold Construction submitted to Chazen Engineering clearly shows that there is an option on those risers that came with the existing tanks for water tightness. That option apparently was not chosen, and Chazen approved the tanks without that option. When the DOH went out there on March 7th actually was the date that they went out there and created their document on March 11th, the tanks did not meet 7.08.2, okay? They were not watertight. Not even that they did not seem to be. That's legalese. I don't want to get into that. After that point, Harold Construction and Chazen came up with fixes. They tried caulking the edges of the tank and in the hopes that they would squish down when they locked the covers, and that would now be watertight. But there was no water tightness in those risers from the beginning. There never was, and there never would have been. So it did not meet the 10 state standards. What the submission that Harold gave to Chazen stated, I believe, if I remember correctly, was that they met industry standards. That is not the same, all right? The DOH, we have to understand, is the only arbitrary, competent authority that we have overseeing this project. They are the only ones. The town board is not a competent authority because you people have no knowledge of any of this construction. Chazen was not a competent authority because they were incompetent from day one. It's been shown over and over and over again, you know, from the beginning, from their initial design, that they were incompetent. But we were told at some point that, hey, we had to go with them because we were already locked in. We had already paid them $100 and something thousand. So let's go ahead and pay them another $200,000. They did not do their job. All right? Neither one of these, Harold made a submission. The submission was approved. They should have known what the state standard was. It was their job to know what they were supposed to put in. It's a requirement of their contract. Chazen is the engineer responsible for this project. All right? They should have known what the 10 state standards were and whether or not these risers met the 10 state standards before they approved it. This is just another measure of their incompetence, okay? So in the end, we have an engineering firm that we hired to look into, to design this project, to approve everything that went into it, and then we just paid. They approved everything that came through without question, okay? And there was no question from this town board, there was no question from the the water manager as to whether this was really true. Nobody really investigated this. We just paid it. So the question is, why? Okay. Now we come to the negotiations. When you stated that the majority of people wanted to settle, that's kind of inaccurate. Okay? I took the survey. The majority of the people really wanted for the town to use at least that $27,000 plus the $11,000 whatever, $500 for the risers. That's what they were willing to settle for.
Well, that's not gonna happen.
Okay? But that's what they were willing to settle for.
But that's not what it's gonna be.
Well, I'll tell you why it's not going to be. It's not going to be because you determined, you the town board or whoever did it, determined long ago that that's not what it was going to be.
No, we did the best we could.
If I am negotiating with somebody and I come back to them and I decide, well, I know I'm not going to get it, so I may as well go back for less, what's the incentive for the other party to negotiate hard? If I'm sitting there saying, I'm going to stick out for my $54,000 plus whatever, and I'm going to negotiate from that point, maybe I got a shot. But that's neither here nor there. We're at this point.
Andy, we had limited people to 2 minutes. You're well over close to 7 minutes. You can sit here and argue all night. It's not going to change anything. We have done the best we could, and we're going to be voting.
Okay. I would like to read a statement, if I may.
How long is it? You can leave it for the record.
Well, I'm going to leave it for the record, but I would like to read it, because I'd like the people to
Town
hear it.
board, I'll let him read it.
Yes.
You know, when 312 was up there, you gave 5 minutes, 10 minutes rebuttals.
Andy,
we got a few people out here in the audience.
Andy,
We're not keeping you here for
Andy,
20 minutes.
Look at
You know,
Thank you. Have a good evening, please.
no, I'm not leaving.
Ma'am.
Forgot my reading glasses. Does somebody have a pair?
Let him read it. Let him read it. Andy, come up and read it.
Thank you.
No, we can't do that. You have your 2 minutes.
I'm giving my time.
No, you're not. You're gonna have 2 minutes. We're
I
giving.
have my 2 minutes?
Yep.
Andy can read that then. Basically.
Okay, you wanna do it now?
My
Okay.
name is Diane Hernandez, 32 Acorn Road, Springhouse Water District. I am also a taxpayer and a registered voter. I am so tired of all the excuses that this town has given us. Every single time we ask for something or we tell you there's a discrepancy, it's, oh, we'll look into that, and then we get no answers. Throughout this whole mega years of trial, you know, we have actually been working just as hard on all of this as you have, if not more. We have several people here who have spent their personal time going over bills, asking questions, not getting responses to the questions on bills. If we see that there's something wrong, according to a contract, we've actually asked, why are we paying this? It's not in the contract. They're not supposed to, but it gets paid anyway. Dollar for dollar, every single dollar, we end up paying for it. Yes, it is not your money, it is ours. And we are just tired of the town telling us, oh, well, we didn't go after the $60,000 because we didn't think we were gonna get it. You start at the high and go, and then negotiate down. You don't start low. Where did you come up with the $27,000? We were without water from January 5th, when we were supposed to be online, March 5th or May 5th or whatever the date was, I can't even remember anymore. But from that point on, we were paying for water being come into our service, we were paying for the old well, we were paying for all these other charges, the risers and everything else, which Chazen, when they were doing all the documentation, knows that the DOH is going to look at all the specs. If the DOH did not approve, if they should have brought it to them, said, this is what we're planning on putting in, is this approvable? No. Did they do it? No. So here we are, $11,000 more than we were supposed to pay. We're paying Chazen astronomical amount of money for sitting here and doing nothing. You know, oh, it was his fault, it was his fault. So basically,
We'll give you another
what I'm
minute, you're
saying
3.5.
is that you, the town, have really sat down and not paid too much attention, even when we're up here and you sit there and argue with us. I think you should have started off the negotiations at the highest number possible. Just an aggravation alone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
To my friends and neighbors of Spring House, I'd like to say what a privilege it has been to be a spokesman. We have come a long way since the town took over the running of our wells, and especially since our wells were condemned by the DOH, and have had an uphill struggle against our town board and our engineers to root out the waste that was involved in this project. We were able to review the plans and remove items that were wasteful or just not needed. We were able to reduce the cost of construction by about $250,000. However, during the construction, a lot of things arose that showed the incompetence of our engineering firm, something we had cried out about long before a shovel went into the ground. We had hoped that they had drawn plans that would see our plant built to the cost that was bid by the contractors with no extras. That was not to be. Many errors were made, and the cost of construction escalated. Change orders were made, approved by the engineer, and paid by the town that should have been scrutinized more closely, but were not. The final straw that showed the incompetence of our engineers was the specification of a three-phase booster pump when the project clearly stated single phase for the plant. This gross error caused the plant to not go online for another 4 months. During this time, the DOH inspected the plant and found that the manhole risers for the tanks did not meet the standards that are required by the state of New York, even though submissions for the tanks and the risers were approved by the engineer. However, the contractor was allowed a change order for approximately $11,500, which was approved by the engineer and paid by the town. During the 4 months that passed between the time the plant should have gone online and the date that it did go online, we, Spring House, were still purchasing water from Durkin. We're still making repairs to the existing well house. We're still paying for electric to run the existing well house, and we're paying for the town attorney to investigate the meaning of substantial completion and to negotiate with the engineers and their attorney. The cost of our expenditures during this time came to over $54,000 plus continuing attorney's fees. The result of this negotiation was an offer from Chazen for $21,500. I stand corrected. It's
No, I had said
$21,150. Excuse me?
I had said that, by mistake.
Yes. This amount does not even pay for the water purchased up until February 25th, which was the date that the pumps were actually turned on and water testing was begun. In addition, the town has not pursued any recovery of the $11,500 for the risers that were installed over the existing one. They blindly accepted what the engineer sent them and not what the DOH, who is the only competent authority overseeing this project, rightfully demanded to comply with the law. I feel that the offer we have received from Chazen is an insult, and I believe that the town has been negotiating with only the intent to take what was offered and not to even fight for what is right. Even if we did not litigate for the entire amount, we should have taken a harder line to get what we paid out at least until February 25th, 2014, and try to retrieve the money for the risers. This is not only my feeling, but the feeling of most of the people of Springhouse Water District. They feel cheated. They feel let down by the town board. They feel like all the board does is approve spending our money without regard to the hardship that it places on the families that live in the community. This has been going on for the past 25 years that the town has been involved in our wells and continues today. It is because of the frustration, the lack of confidence I have in the town board, and the feeling that with everything that we have tried to do in connection with controlling the cost involved in this project, with obtaining a grant to help defray some of these costs, with trying to keep everyone involved up to date, is all for naught. The town board has its own agenda and is not in keeping with how I feel we should be treated. It is for these reasons that I hereby resign as community liaison for Springhouse Water District. Make no mistake, I am not abandoning my community and will continue to fight what I think is in our best interest, but as an individual and not as a liaison. There is still much to do. We have been granted an award by DASNY, some of which will be used to pay the balance to the contractors, but that is not all the money. I want to make sure that the town tries every avenue to use the rest of the money on our behalf and not lose it. The town should tell us what else they are trying to use the money for and if they are successful. I would like to see more transparency between the town board and the residents of Springhouse. The town has the capacity to communicate with us all, and they should use this. There should not be any negotiations on our behalf that we are not fully cognizant of. Again, I would like to thank the residents of Springhouse for all the support they have given me. We have gelled as a community and have been able to come together as one loud voice, and most often, many loud voices. I hope this will continue in the future.
Thank you.
Within the minutes.
And thank you for your service. And just for the record, Springhouse Water District came in under the contract price. Sir? Sir?
I have one more thing, just 2 seconds, okay? I would like to thank the people in Springhouse that have been working very hard every month going over the bills. Sue Quigley, Bob Lee, Diane Hernandez, and my wife Irene Shear. They have been working tirelessly, and I know they're frustrated, as frustrated as I am. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Pat Fitzgerald. I'm at 30 Drovers Lane. I haven't lived at Drovers Lane for very long. It was actually 6 years ago on the 9th of March that I bought my house. So I'm a short timer in this process. But prior to me buying that house, I of course knew about the issues with the water district and came here and spoke specifically to the special district's manager and asked him about that process and what was going on. And I was told that we'll have new drinking water by October 2009, and that your bill shouldn't change, if at all, maybe a little bit, which was obviously nowhere near correct. And that's where the incompetency, I believe, started. Over the last 6 years, some things have changed with the town board, and now we have drinking water. And I do want to say, Tony, thank you. I believe that, a lot of that lies with you, that this was finally organized, that your predecessor offered us nothing but lies and BS and debt. And I want to thank you because, it's a tough process, but here we are. We do have drinking water, okay? And that's a big deal, and we appreciate it. That being said, things could have been done better. And I think if it truly was your money, and I believe you have our best interests in mind, but if it truly was your money, some decisions would have been made with a little bit more caution, especially in approvals. And right up until tonight, where, there's two different versions of what Chazen might owe us, $54,000, $27,000. I think if it was truly your money, you would have started at that 54 and said, let's throw that up against the wall, see what happens. Not come up with some reason why they only owe 20, that's 27, let's start there. That was just stupid. Poor negotiations, really poor, That's all I have to say on that. Where we are now, for the record, I agree that settling is the way to go, and at least we got something out of them, but if we had started at a better point, we would have gotten more. That being said, I have a separate question. Amongst the emails that have been going around in the last week, there was a mention of something that I don't know why I didn't know of this before, but debt that's outstanding from the water district to the town for, I know this term isn't correct, bonds or whatever the term is. They're not technically bonds right now, but the town has laid out money for the water district. Looks like parts of that have been repaid, but not all of it. And if my math was correct, the outstanding debt is somewhere around $1.5 million. Can you guys offer me any clarification on that?
Not tonight, but I'll find out.
There was going to be an emergency.
It's not 1.5.
Okay, so
I don't know the number, but I'll find out.
to my knowledge, right, there's some debt that, separate from the development, the acquisition, and so on and so forth of this new water plant, there is debt that I saw dated back to 1993 that the town laid out for the water district. Parts have been repaid. I believe this debt that we're talking about tonight gets lumped into some of that, and you guys are planning on asking the county for an emergency measure for a bond?
No.
Okay.
No,
Can you
no,
offer
no.
clarification on that?
There's outstanding debt due, and you mentioned previous administrations, whatever, okay?
Yeah.
The bottom line, I don't know the number in front of me, but we can go and ask, which through the state senate, okay, a special resolution, okay, to allow this bonding of the money to be extended over a longer period of time to keep your amount down. As you know, it's really high, was it $3,300 a year, whatever the number may be. But
Yeah.
it's not,
This seems separate from that? Has our water bills been chipping away at that?
not really, because
Okay.
your numbers were hidden, yours and Peaceful Hill unfortunately were being hidden, okay? So when I got here and I looked at the books, unfortunately I saw, and I can't do that. I'm not gonna,
We appreciate it.
I'm not gonna do it. I mean, it hurt you guys, but you were being hurt even more by it not being on the table. So what I'll do is if you just come up, write your phone number down, I'll call you tomorrow, and I'll share the information with you. What we're attempting to do, we're trying to get what the EFC, the loan that we got, because you got a special rate. Peaceful Hill, who's gonna be getting hopefully a water district sometime this year as well, their own water district, so to speak, they're not eligible for that type of funding like you got. You got a very low rate because you're a hardships case. They're not hardship, okay?
But this is for the new water plant we're talking about.
Yours, yes. So the existing debt that you had prior going into it was not allowed to be rolled into the EFC finance. We
Okay.
tried to do that.
Okay.
But again, there's rules and regulations.
Okay.
We were not allowed to roll it in. So you still have outstanding debt. I don't want to.
Am I in the ballpark there, 1.5 million?
No, I don't think it's even close. I don't think it's close.
Andy, do you know how much it is?
It's about $300,000.
Yeah, that's the number I would have said.
That's the amount.
That's it?
No, that's
Well, but that's the number.
That's not the amount of the total debt. Yeah.
I mean, I say that only because my number is so far off.
Okay, no, that's,
Can I say something? Just to clear it up.
okay.
I'm
I would use that number, but, I would have used that number because that's the number I'm thinking of, but I'm not the type of person that wants to be quoted with a number and not having the facts.
That's fine, I
But
understand
yeah, 300 is more in line than 1.5.
Let me explain. We have a total of about $2,500,000 in total debt. Of that, there was an amount that was banned,
B-A-N.
on anticipation note. Originally in 2010, it was 500 and some odd thousand dollars. There are amounts in that which included the water from Durkin up until some point, the waste that was hauled away, the acquisition of the property, the legal fees for the acquisition of the property, and some other amounts. I don't know the exact amount either that were in that ban and past that were not allowed to be rolled into the EFC. These are also amounts that are not allowed to be bonded. Am I correct?
Right.
Okay, so it's an amount that's cash that they have laid out for us. Okay? The money from this settlement will be cash going to pay back cash. Am I correct in that?
Give you a settlement with,
When we settle
Oh,
with
with
Jason
this-
with
with
this
this-
$21,000,
it's gonna go in.
it's a drop in the bucket,
Yeah.
but it goes to pay back outstanding.
So
It could.
my
So,
number was a little off,
the
but
number- the number is
what's your
about
plan with that
300,000.
money? 'Cause you're gonna
Which
want-
money, 21,000?
No,
Okay.
the existing debt that we're talking about
We
that's
have to get
banned
it, we
right
have
now.
to get it financed at the lowest rate we can for Springhouse.
And that then will go on top of our current water bill?
Well, it's,
Yes.
well, I don't think it'll be that much more, but it's approximately what you're
Don't say
paying,
that.
approximately what you're paying now is about what it is, because that's when we came up with the number, we included those numbers. We knew you had to pay it.
Sure. So the water bill we have now that we're getting, I don't want to put you back against the wall, I'm not
No,
trying to get
it's
you to say
either
something you don't
32
want
or
to say, but I'm
3,400,
trying,
whatever.
that number seemed awfully big. and again,
Whatever
we're
the
gonna have to pay it
estimate
back.
was at the time, and I thought it was between $3,200 and $3,400, that money was taken into consideration when we set up the number.
Okay.
And
Just
if we
so I
get-
could, if I could explain something, when you asked where that money is going to come from, and there was a discussion about a bond, because these are operating costs, you cannot bond operating costs. We are going to the state legislature for a special, what they call a home rule bill,
Okay.
which would allow, if the legislature passes the bill, for us to actually borrow money for operating costs. And basically supplant whatever those charges are that the town has laid out. But we can't do it in the normal bonding scheme because the local finance law doesn't allow it. We have to get what is known as a home rule legislation, which would allow for this identifiable cost to be financed over a period of years.
Okay. All right.
And we're working on that.
And theoretically, that is included in what we thought our water bill was going to
Yes.
be? Okay, all right. Can I give you my number?
Yes.
Is that it?
Well, this gentleman is giving the number. I just would like to know,
And you can share it with the town.
Andy, what is it that you think is a fair and reasonable settlement offer? The 54,000 in your letter?
According to mine. Anytime better than not? Patrick, anytime better than not in the evening?
Yes. In a nutshell, I think the 54,000 is fair and reasonable because we were not responsible in any way, shape, or form for the delay, of the 4 months that we were not online and we were paying for water. If you use, and I'll grant you, February 25th or 24th, whatever it is the day that the booster pump went online, and they started doing water testing. Okay, so it's an arbitrary day, but the fact of the matter, if you use February 25th of 2014 as a date, as a reasonable date, whatever water charges we incurred up to that point, which by my calculation was about $23,000. Whatever charges we incurred for Will Stevens Law Firm, which I think is now up to about $3,800. Whatever charges we incurred for Redundant Electric, where we were paying for running the existing water plant while we were waiting for them to start this, is another $2,000. And repairs that we had to make to the existing plant, which is about $5,000 off the top of my head. So you got 23,000, 5,000, 3,000, and another 2,000. So what does that come to? About 35? Anybody? 34, 33. Okay. That I think was a reasonable number.
What, 33?
Not $35,000, not $27,000. Because that would pay us up to the date that I think that, and I'm going to kill myself for saying this because it's arbitrary it goes against everything I feel. But if I use that date as the date of substantial completion, all right? Because at that point in time, all the contract work was technically done. Then $35,000 is the amount that we should have been firm on, not $27,000. And if we had, and I think we should have negotiated much harder based on that number, you know, and not, you know, I think we went into this negotiation with the object of settlement and took what the, you know, the quick and easy way out, and that's the way I feel. And it irks me so much that I would say $54,000. Actually, I say $70,000 because I really feel that they're responsible for those risers, and I really feel they're responsible for the auto dialer. Chazen, we paid them $100,000 in excess of what is allowed to be financed by the EFC. $100,000. Okay? That's in that $400,000 we're talking about, people. All right? It's going to come back on us. Not you, us. All right? So when you negotiate from a point where we showed you where there was $60,000 to $70,000, and you run down to $27,000 and want to settle for $21,000, it bothers the crap out of me. And I'm sure it bothers the crap out of everybody else. I took the survey and nobody, I gave them 3 options. Nobody chose your option. Nobody. Not a single person until Tony wrote a letter and told them that there really was only 2 options, you know, suing for the 54 plus or accepting the 21. And then everybody threw up their hands and said, you know, they're banging their heads, they feel like they're banging their heads against the wall because nobody's listening to them.
What was the third option?
There was no
The $27,000 plus the risers. And I didn't even include the risers in that option. Everybody who wrote back to me, they asked for that.
How many people was everybody?
I didn't, I'll tell you what, I threw it away. But I had, because I got disgusted when I got that other letter and it changed the whole thing. But at the point that I was at, I had about half the community responding, and it was probably about 20 who chose option 2.
Option 2 was?
The 27,000, and there were about 8 or 9, maybe 10 who chose option 3, which was the full amount, and then changed their mind when they, you know, got the second letter.
Let me just tell you what I think. I think that right now, the town has presented what we think is prudent, at least, pardon me, the town. I am thinking that what's been presented is what's considered to be prudent under the circumstances, taking into account litigation expenses and the success/non-success. Because once again, you might be going for this number, you might win in the end, but you might be spending this much more in winning. So I think you have to consider that, but, you know, and I haven't discussed this with any of my board members or whatever, but you know that you would have to go to outside counsel. And outside counsel, I'm not gonna quote any fees that an outside counsel would charge. But, right now, what I would have liked to have seen is more people here who would be from Springhouse, who would say something one way or the other to us. But the only thought that I have is if what you're stating is that you believe in your hearts, and everyone here believes in their hearts, that they spoke to their neighbors, who might not necessarily be your neighbors, but there's more than a majority of the people in Springhouse, perhaps maybe, what I might suggest is tabling this motion for tonight, or tabling this resolution, and permitting you to go out as Springhouse, and finding a different attorney who you would select to represent you, to get a second opinion. If not, then, we're pressed with this resolution tonight. We're either gonna reject it, or we're gonna approve it for the 21,150.
No.
I just, when I hear that you don't believe that we have negotiated hard enough, et cetera,
I
your only
think that's a
option is.
road, that's a road too hard to travel,
Oh, so, okay.
unfortunately.
Well, if you're.
My question is, why do we have to vote on this resolution tonight? Was the offer an absolute final?
Yes.
Yeah, my understanding.
This was a take it or leave it.
My
If you
understanding.
wish to litigate, they will litigate.
My understanding is that it was a take it or leave it.
Okay.
But, after what you're saying is basically saying you believe that the town either A, didn't negotiate hard enough, and the only way that you can really find out or take the temperature or the gauge of whether or not we negotiated hard enough would be to have perhaps a second opinion. But the problem is, and you have to pay for that second opinion.
Unfortunately, I think the ship has sailed, okay? In my opinion, given that there's now documentation that establishes a lower number in their possession, I don't think we have a fighting chance, okay?
Well, I'm not, one thing that I want to make certain is if you believe the majority of those in Springhouse who aren't appearing here this evening, if you really believe that the town has, right now it's not binding, it's whatever numbers, what I'm saying to you is, when I hear we didn't, or it wasn't negotiated hard enough, you shouldn't look at that. I've already said that if what your grand slam was 70, your home run was 54, but, the double that scored the winning run was going to be around 27 plus 11, which is 38. And what I'm saying to you is the 21,150 is here, but by the time you spend money, you could be there and you might end up even being where you are, but higher. I just don't want to see a lot of people dissatisfied. And just to provide another option, if you wanted to go out, hire outside counsel to evaluate what we did in terms of a settlement offer, and then say, hey, what do you think? Then, I would certainly be for tabling this motion, and then say, okay, find somebody, and let's have somebody else evaluate this.
If you had made this offer a year ago, I think that would have been a possibility. You're making this offer now, which, like I say, it's going to be very difficult to get 54 people to agree to spread the cost among the 54 people, right? Because we would have to pay it for an outside attorney.
I believe that's how the settlement was predicated with the town. I know what you're saying is that the figure that's being proposed is a figure that is, should have been higher, but I think part of the problem when you're negotiating is you say, yeah, I think the figure should have been higher, but taking into account how we're going to have to go with the attorneys, we're going to have to accept this less, bearing in mind that Chazen's offer was 15.
13.
So, pardon?
Yeah, but
13, I'm sorry.
the way I feel is the town negotiated with itself. Okay, they negotiated themselves from $54,000 down to 27, and made an offer based on the 27. So if I'm the other party, sure, I'm gonna take a harder line. They don't want to pay anything. You know, even though they got $100,000 more of our money, they don't want to give it back. Part of their counterclaim was they had $50,000 in expenses that they supposedly didn't charge us. I think that's an insult. All right? So from their standpoint, and look at it from their standpoint of negotiation, they're saying they're claiming they're losing $50,000 plus the 21. They're playing a lot of hardball there. We're only negotiating from 54, or so they're getting away. They're getting away with getting back $30,000 of their money that they don't have to pay.
And I think that's why I'm basically saying to anyone sitting here, if you want this motion tabled so you can consult with outside counsel, if you feel dissatisfied with this and they can take all the figures and make a go of it, then, I just don't want people walking away saying that the town really gave you no choice. I think that I, for one, would submit that to you, but then you would have to get outside counsel. We would give them all of the paperwork and see whether or not they're in a position of doing it. Otherwise, then I'm inclined to vote for this, because I believe then that it is the answer. As long as
Unfortunately,
you're-
I think based on the last letters that went out and the responses, the people are so disgusted with what's been done to them that they're ready to take this and move on rather than try and spend any more of their money. All right?
Well, I'm hoping it's not
So-
so much that people are disgusted as much as they realize that this
No,
process.
they're disgusted.
Well,
I think they are disgusted.
If they're disgusted, then
There-
Andy, I
there
know
is-
that your letter says letter of resignation.
Yes, it
But I
is.
want to tell you right now, if you really believe, and everyone sitting here, or the majority of the people at your neighbors really are viewing this with disgust, then you should take the other route that I'm suggesting. Because then, to do anything else to me.
I'm not going out. I personally would not do it.
Okay.
Okay? I don't see the point that this, if the town had made that offer last year when we came to them and asked for this $54,000 plus, if you had made that offer, we would have taken you up on it.
Okay, I'm
But
just
here
saying-
we are a year later, all right? And we're finally, these negotiations have been going on for a year, and this is where we're at.
Okay.
That's why we're disgusted,
Okay,
okay?
thank you, Andy.
Hi, I'm Sue Quigley, 41 Orchard Court. Basically, just to put my 2 cents in, I'm extremely disgusted, frustrated, angry, sad, worried, and exhausted. And I'm really just disappointed in the town board. Nothing personal, but just really disappointed, because I do feel that you could have been a little bit stronger and fought for us a little bit more. I know you guys have been involved with this just as much as we have, but it has frustrated me, and I just have to say, and again, nothing personal, but when Mr. Cullen, Ms. Hudak, when you guys were running, and we, in the mail, got your brochure when you were running, that you guys boasted about getting Springhouse their water, which was in your literature. And I read that and I thought, and what about us? What about the neighbors, the residents that fought so God blasted hard to get the water? And we finally do have it, and I do thank you for that, because I know it was this board that did get us our water. But at this point, you can't be asking us to be spending any more money. I lay in bed at night, I worry. And excuse me for getting upset. Will I be able to pay my water bill on top of my other bills? $850 a quarter. Who the hell in this country pays that kind of money? Who? Except us. Us 54 houses. $850 a quarter. I have taken retirement off the short-term plan for me and my husband. I am tired of our dinner conversations revolving around the water. I am tired of walking in my neighborhood and meeting up with wonderful, nice neighbors, and the conversation revolves around the water. My son, who no longer lives at home, comes home for a visit and brings up to me, Mom, so how's the water issue? We eat and live, drink, sleep, the water issue. All of us, not just me, not just Jim, but all of us. We are so tired of this. So the fact that $21,000, while it is something, it's not nearly. And that's, I think, the frustration with all of us, is that we felt like, why couldn't they have finally worked a little bit harder in our favor? And I think that's half of the problem, is that all of us feel, and anybody can correct me if I'm not speaking right, but that we all feel like, why do we have to keep doing this? This is not our job. And I don't want to say it's your job, but it is your job. I know you guys didn't sign up for this at the beginning, but the other thing is, you talk about all the other water districts in this town. What will the rest of these water districts, what will those residents end up having to pay? If we're paying $850, by the time they get all their construction done and their issues, what are they going to be paying? Why isn't something done as far as the board possibly thinking outside the box, being a little bit creative? Is that, like, can you entice new business to come in, big business? I drive up and down 22 every day. I look at that, where that old golf dome used to be, and it's just dead property sitting there. I'm no expert, but this is just what I'm throwing out to you. Can something come in there? Deals are made all the time.
But that would have nothing to do with your water bill.
But when I say deals are made all the time, you can't tell me that when big business comes in, that they don't work out incentives with the town. Okay, we have this water issue. Can you help us with it? Think outside the box. We have New York City. We have all this water around us for New York City. Why do they get our water when we pay so much? Why can't we make some kind of a deal with them? And again, I'm no expert. This is just something I'm throwing out as an ignorant person, because I don't know the ins and outs of this. I just read in that little mail thing that we get in the mail, the Putnam Express, where Orangetown has had the filming of the new Orange is Black, or whatever that the movie is, where they had gotten millions into their town revenue. Why can't we do something like that? We have such a rich culture here. Why can't we try to get film to come in here, make a movie, have that extra revenue to help with this water issue? And I'm not saying just for us, but for this whole town. Because at this point, you're going to make it so people cannot afford to live here. And that worries me.
Ma'am, the only problem with your suggestion, I think there's 8 water districts, possibly 3 sewer districts in town.
Mm-hmm.
And each one, you are at the highest scale. There are other water districts which have less people than you have, but they had good water and they've never experienced the problems that you encountered. And I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I can get them for you and show you what other districts are paying. They're paying a lot less.
Understandably, they're paying a lot
But the
less.
unfortunate thing is, your water went bad. You, not you, but the district, okay, when they created it. I have to admit, when I was watching from the sidelines, long before I became into politics, I didn't go for a lot that was going on around here, with the condominiums and, whatever. It was a problem. So there's other people that have problems similar to yours, but not the same. In other words, I have a water well, okay? And just up the road from me, around past Larkspur South, and the further you go toward Route 312, some of those people have gone down 1,000 to 1,200 feet to get water.
Mm-hmm.
I don't experience that problem yet, knock on wood, okay? But it's out there. No one else can contribute to your dilemma, unfortunately. So Brewster Heights, they have probably the second highest with their water and their sewer. They take the water from the reservoir, and they're paying for that water as well. Peaceable Hill is gonna be having their own district soon. Their rates will be less than what they're currently paying, and, but
Yeah,
if-
but why is that? Why will they be getting then into a district, but then be
But-
paying less?
well, they're.
For clarity's
because-
sake, Peaceable Hill is a district already.
Yeah.
They buy their water from the Village of Brewster at a very high expense. We are putting in a water facility that the district is building, much the same as Springhouse just built, its own wells and delivery system. So it's not creating a new district, we're just creating a new water source for that district.
But I still don't understand, then you're saying that, I understand we're paying a lot because of the issue, but you have said in the past that all these districts have all these different issues. And I find it hard to believe that if now you're gonna be building a new plant for Peaceful, like how come those neighbors aren't gonna end up getting, like us, these jumps in their water bills? Basically, what I'm saying is that I just wish, because I know my 2 minutes have got to be up.
2 hours ago.
2 hours ago. But if you could just try, like I said, if you can, think creatively and just try. Because I think if you just came back to us and said, this is what we are trying to do, to try to get extra revenue from somewhere.
We can't do that.
Right, I mean, I don't think you understand, you're the only people that can pay for your water situation. We can't bill people, like in my neighborhood or Tony's neighborhood. That is what I think she's saying.
No, I'm saying.
Development and whatever is not gonna help you. It's the
Right,
54
but-
homes. Unfortunately, you have the burden.
But if you have all these different water districts all throughout the town, why can't revenue come in to help with a town problem, a town issue?
The closest we had gotten was, we went out there and saw what grants we could get. The only grant that panned out was the grant that Andy had referred to. So, it just, for some reason, there was more money out there, in quotes, more grant money, or however you wanna term it, for sewer as opposed to water districts.
I know,
When-
and that's the other thing, because I've often thought about that also. Why, if there was a lot of money for water and sewer in our little development, then why didn't we put sewer
No,
in?
no
it
water,
wasn't.
sewer only.
Sewer only.
That's where all the money is.
So what happened was basically, it was almost at the last minute where it turned out that there was a grant available for water. And once that opportunity came up, we grabbed it right away. So there was, everyone was beating the bushes, for lack of a better cliche, looking for money for the water.
We were looking for money.
And
And
Lynn,
found
So will
it. And you found it.
right, Lynn Eckhart, I know she spoke to Senator Gillibrand for federal funding numerous times. There's nothing available. I actually found some clean water organization, and I approached them about getting money for you. It turns out, I think Andy may remember, I gave him the email. They only do third world countries and Africa and stuff like that, which I find is a little, take care of our own first, when you have people in the United States that have dirty water. But, I think we have kind of tried. It's a horrible situation. You have a small district,
The only thing
I
your
don't know.
district can do to lower it is to find more people to come
Right.
onto your system. But unfortunately, with the size of the tanks and things like that, now Peaceable Hill, while we're doing that, we are taking into consideration, there's another district right next to them that at some point in time may merge the two together. Because there's a tremendous amount of water that Peaceable Hill is gonna generate out of their two wells.
Right.
I think one was like 97 gallons a minute, and the other one was like 80-something gallons a minute. And
Right,
the tank that we're.
and that's fine for them. It
Well,
still
yeah, but
doesn't.
unfortunately, you didn't have that option where you were and where they put the wells to begin with. I mean, everything was screwed up since basically day one. And yours wasn't the only one. We had another one called Harvest Drive, that development over there. When they first went in, they didn't have water problems. They had mudslides, and the homes probably never should have been built there. But they're there.
Well, thank you for your time. I'm sure you can understand our frustration.
We do.
And like I said, our worry. This is a huge, huge worry. Thank you.
I'm the other half.
As far as anybody
Why
being,
don't you just state your name for the record, if you would?
Jim Quigley, 41 Orchard Court. As far as satisfaction, I'm paying $9.31 a day for water. There's nothing anybody's gonna do to satisfy me, all right? I wanna go in a different direction. I was wondering who owns the property where the old well is?
You do,
We do.
the district.
Okay. If somebody goes back there and breaks their neck, who's gonna get sued?
You would.
Okay. What do we do to stop the four-wheelers and all the other bullshit that's going on back there?
Talk to your neighbors.
How? And do what?
What
Can
can
I go
we-
over there and put up a gate?
We are gonna there is gonna be a gate there eventually.
Because I walked my dog past there the other day, before the winter started, I saw a lawn chair and a barbecue back there.
I think that's one of your neighbors, sir.
Well, it's, all right, so it's our responsibility, that too.
Well, you can call the sheriff's department or the state police, they're trespassing on town property. I
Not
mean,
town.
well, it's,
Private property.
no, it's not.
It's their property, private
Yeah, but
property.
it's not, it's like a district.
So who's, all right, let me put it to you this way. Who's responsible for stopping somebody from going back there and killing themselves and then getting us sued?
Sir, it's just like if they came on your property, did the same thing, nobody. I mean, what happened there can happen anywhere in the town. We are gonna put up stones across there, because I think Mr. Monty lives in that house, okay? And he's asked, and we'll be doing it, we had to wait till spring, we still have the tank there, the tank is the only thing left back there that has to be cut up and salvaged and,
I just want to make sure, or be told how to make sure that we don't get screwed again. All right? And I'm not blaming anybody. I just feel we've been screwed well enough. I think we're a little tired of it. I think you're a little tired of it. I would ask the town board to end this tonight. End it. Don't prolong it. Don't put it off for another day. Vote it. End it. But I need to know, I want to know personally how to stop somebody from going back there and getting hurt, and then we wind up costing us more money.
we can, at a cost, we can post no trespassing signs. And when someone's there, call the state police and
Yeah,
sheriff's
but-
department and ask them to go there and enforce the no trespassing sign.
And that land is covered by the town's insurance. It's not covered by Springhouse Insurance. It's part of the town's insurance.
Why ours?
It's a special district. It's part of the town.
Well, it's still part of the town.
It's our, so I guess we pick up the bill on that one.
All right, well,
So
then
don't
maybe
fool-
maybe
don't
we'll put
four-wheel
up a
there
better
now.
sign then, I don't know. But I'm just saying, I see things going, I see four-wheeler tracks, I see, and I'm not saying the lawn chair and the barbecue or somebody barbecuing back there. I just don't want it to become a dump, too.
No, in the springtime, we have plans to put stones across the front of it, okay? And can someone go around it in a four-wheeler?
Yeah, I
They sure
understand
can.
that, but
They're
I'm
gonna have
just-
to
I
go through
just, you
someone's
know.
property to do it, because the property going in is like a flag lot. It's a very narrow area.
Right.
We're gonna put stones across it, and after that, we can't do much more than what we do.
I think
All
though,
right.
all of your, everyone in your district should call the police anytime, either the sheriff's department, the troopers, and just make certain that you continue. We have another area in the town where it's been a constant problem with the ATVs and by the time we call.
No, I know, by the time they get there, the people are gone. I
The
know,
people
I
are
was a
gone,
cop, I
so
know.
maybe
They're never
get-
there once you get there.
Get license plate numbers if someone pulls in with a trailer or another truck.
All right.
It's the only way you can do it.
Well, if it's gonna be the town that's getting sued,
But you're gonna have to pay for it if it happens too.
how are we gonna have to pay for the town
Because
getting
you pay
sued?
taxes.
What?
'Cause you
We're
pay
all
taxes.
taxpayer, I mean, you know.
Well,
The property's insured through the town's
Sir, you
policy.
can't win no matter what we do.
But I think
I
that the
understand
neighbors,
I'm just trying to bring a problem to your attention.
Okay.
It
if
might
you
cause
call
us all
the,
an issue. That's
if
all
you
I'm
call
trying
the
to do.
police when you see people there, and if they constantly called, these people aren't gonna come back there with the ATVs. We have a problem at a landfill too, on the old landfill that's capped. People ride ATVs there, you know, it's.
Anyone else from the public? Town board members? Okay, I'll end with a little bit of good news.
No, we didn't vote.
Oh, we didn't vote? Oh, geez.
We
That's
have
not-
to,
this is not the good news. Let's vote first. Go ahead. Roll call vote on the motion.
Councilman Alvarez,
Yes.
Councilman Cohen,
Yes.
Councilwoman Hudak,
yes.
Supervisor Hay.
Yes.
And echoes.
So anyone have any
I'll
comment?
write that in there.
No.
Okay. Prospect Hill Bridge. 7 years ago, the MTA closed the bridge and said it would be 6 months. Okay? Now, 6 months turned into almost 7 years. Last year, when they did the budget for the MTA, actually it said 2010, 2014, the letter I received today, they have the money to repair the bridge. This year, okay, I'll read it. At this time, full funding for design and construction of a new bridge has been secured under the 2010-2014 MTA capital program. The railroad will advertise for a design firm this spring and expect to award a design contract by the end of the year. Construction is anticipated to begin in mid-2017 with an 18 to 24-month schedule. I am sure you understand that, bless you, the timelines are estimated and contingent on a number of contractual processes, but this will at least give the town some idea of the project schedule. So you're looking at 2019, maybe 2020, but how many years is that from then? It's about 11 years to 6 months that they predicted. So the good news is they're going to start it, but the good news is I don't think I'll be living here by then. But I hope I am, just to see it. So that is one bit of good news. And what can you say? I mean, it's 11 years from the time they close it to the time they get it fixed. So that's the only good news I have for this evening. Is there a motion?
Make a motion, we close tonight's meeting?
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank
Thank
you all
you.
for coming.